This is Everyday Tension. Real stories based on real experiences about everyday conflicts people rarely talk about. This story was shared anonymously. If you'd like, you can support the channel by liking or subscribing and let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Here's what happened.
I was unpacking a box. That's how it started. It was just a cardboard box taped shut, with John, Mrs. written on the side in his familiar, slanted handwriting. We'd just moved into the new house 2 days before. The kids were at my sister's, and John was at work. The silence was heavy, full of dust motes and empty rooms. I was in what was going to be his study, surrounded by towers of boxes, trying to make a dent in the chaos. This box was smaller than the others. I figured it was old office supplies, or maybe some computer cables. I used a box cutter to slit the tape. I wasn't snooping. I really wasn't. I just wanted to see if it was something that could go straight into a drawer, or if it needed sorting. The top layer was just what I expected, a tangled nest of old USB cables, a spare mouse, a worn-out laptop charger. Underneath that was a manila folder. I almost didn't open it. It looked boring. Tax stuff, maybe. But it was just sitting there, and my hands were on autopilot, tired from lifting and carrying. I lifted the flap. They were photographs. Not the kind you put in albums. These were printed on that older, glossier photo paper, the edges slightly curled. The first one I pulled out was of me. I was standing outside my old college dorm, the one I lived in during my sophomore year. I was laughing, my head thrown back, a backpack slung over one shoulder. I was wearing a green sweater I'd completely forgotten about. I remember feeling a warm, little flush. How sweet, I thought. He must have asked my mum or my old roommate for pictures. A surprise for an anniversary or something. He was sentimental like that. I smiled and put it aside, pulling out the next one. It was also me, at the gym, the old campus rec center. I was on the treadmill, facing the window, totally focused. My hair was in a high ponytail. The next one was me again, leaving a coffee shop downtown. Then one of me sitting on a bench in the quad, talking to my friend Lisa. Lisa had her mouth open, mid-sentence. I was nodding. The warm flush began to cool. I sat down on the floor, right there in the dust. I spread the photos out around me. There were maybe 20 of them. All me. All from, I could tell instantly, that same year. I was 20. My face was rounder. I'd just cut my hair short and hated it. In every picture, I was unaware. No one was smiling at the camera. These weren't posed. These were taken from a distance. My heart started a slow, thick pounding in my ears. I met John when I was 23, at my birthday party at that bar, The Lock-In. He was a friend of someone, he said. We bumped into each other at the crowded table. He spilled his drink a little. He was charmingly apologetic. We talked all night. He said he just started coming to that bar. He said he loved the vibe. But these pictures were from 3 years before that. I dug back into the box, under the folder. My hands were shaking now. I found a small, spiral-bound notebook. The pages were filled with John's writing. Lists. At the top of one page, it said Kathleen, weekly routine, approximately spring semester. Underneath, it was broken down by day. Monday, class, Holloway Hall, 9 to 10:30 a.m. Gym rec center, 4 p.m. Library, after. Usually studies in West Wing. Tuesday, work study campus mailroom 11-2. Lunch at Sub with Lisa Jenner. Coffee at Brood Awakenings after 2:30. It went on like that, for every day. There were notes in the margins. Wears blue leggings to gym on Mondays. Favorite salad at sub is Cobb, no egg. Runs for 35 minutes, pace 6.5. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was going to be sick. I dropped the notebook and shoved my hand back in the box. My fingers closed around something else. Another notebook, older, the leather cover soft. A journal. I opened it. The first entry was dated. It was from a month before my 23rd birthday. Saw her at the gym again. She looks tired, maybe stressed about finals. She's been going to the lock-in on Friday nights with her group, planning the birthday thing there. I know the bartender, Mike. He'll let me know the exact date time. I'll run into her. It has to look natural. I flipped pages. My eyes couldn't focus properly, the words swimming. Got a job at the firm downtown. Good. It's closer to her new apartment. I can take the same bus route. Lisa is dating a guy named Greg. He seems okay. Jenna is talking about studying abroad. This could be good. Less distraction. Bought the blue shirt she looked at twice in the window of Macy's. She likes blue. The last entry before our meeting was just one line. Tomorrow. Be calm. Be normal. This is the start. I sat there for I don't know how long. The afternoon sun moved across the floor. A car, I sat there for I don't know what to do. The stage is the story of the single days of meditation food. No. I looked at the photos of my 20-year-old self, smiling, frowning, living my life, and I saw him, a shadow I never knew was there, watching, writing it all down. I didn't feel angry at first. I felt cold, a deep, bone-aching cold. Then the fear came. It wasn't a sharp fear, not a scream. It was a heavy, sinking feeling, like the floor underneath me was made of sand, and it was all giving way. I carefully, methodically, put everything back. The journal, the notebooks, the photos. I put the cables on top. I closed the flaps of the box. I didn't tape it shut. I just left it there, in the middle of the floor. I stood up, my legs stiff, and walked out of the room. I went to the kitchen and made a cup of tea. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I watched the kettle boil. I stirred the honey in. I sat at the new kitchen island, on a stool still wrapped in plastic, and I drank the tea. He came home at 6. I heard his key in the door, his cheerful call. "Honey, I'm home! Wow, it still smells like paint in here." He walked into the kitchen, smiling. He was wearing his good suit. He'd had a client meeting. He looked handsome, tired, but happy. He leaned over and kissed my cheek. "You okay? You look pale." "Just tired," I said. My voice sounded normal. "Unpacking is a lot. Tell me about it. My back is killing me. Did you find my box of cables? I need to set up the printer in the study." "It's in there," I said, nodding towards the study door. "On the floor." He walked out of the kitchen. I sat very still, listening. I heard his footsteps stop. Silence. Then the sound of the box flaps being moved. A longer silence. Then his footsteps again, coming back, slower. He appeared in the kitchen doorway. He wasn't smiling anymore. His face was pale, too. He looked at me, and I looked at him. "Kathleen," he said. His voice was quiet. "I was unpacking," I said. I didn't say anything. I just waited. I took another sip of my tea. It was cold. He came and sat on the stool next to me. He didn't touch me. He put his hands flat on the countertop and stared at them. "I saw you," he said, "at the gym, 3 years before we met. You were on the elliptical. You're wearing a grey t-shirt and your hair was in a braid. You were reading a textbook that was propped up on the machine. And I knew I had to know you." He talked for a long time. The words came out in a quiet, relentless stream. He told me how he'd find out my class schedule by asking someone at the registrar's office, saying he was a student doing a project. He'd wait outside my buildings. He followed me home once, just to see where I lived. He learned my friends' names by listening. He found out where I worked. He knew the men I dated, briefly, and he'd watch them, deciding they weren't good enough. He said he never interfered. He just watched. He said it felt like studying for the most important exam of his life. I had to make sure, he said, his eyes pleading. I had to make sure we were right for each other. And when I saw you planning your birthday at the lock-in, I knew that was my chance. I made it seem like an accident. It was the only lie, Kath. The only one. Everything after that was real. Is real. You took pictures of me, I said. My voice sounded detached, like it was coming from another room. I just wanted to remember you like that. You were so beautiful, so alive. You didn't know me. I felt like I did, he whispered. And I was right, wasn't I? We're perfect together. That's what shattered the cold inside me. That sentence, it ignited something. A slow, burning anger. Perfect, I said. You built this on a lie. You stalked me. For years, you had lists. You had a plan. I loved you, he said, and now there were tears in his eyes. I have always loved you, from the first moment I saw you. Everything I did was because of that love. I wanted to be everything you needed. I learned what you liked, what you hated, so I could be the perfect partner for you. Look at our life, Kathleen. Look at it. Is it bad? Have I been a bad husband? A bad father? That was the trap. That was the thing that made me want to scream and also made me feel like I was going crazy, because he hadn't been. He was a good husband. He remembered my favorite flowers. He knew when I was stressed and would run me a bath without me asking. He was patient with the kids. He played with them. He read to them every night. He worked hard. He was affectionate. Our friends envied us. My mother adored him. For 15 years, I had felt seen, cared for, loved in a way I'd never imagined possible. And now I knew why. He hadn't learned it through the slow, beautiful discovery of a relationship. He'd compiled it. He'd researched it. He'd filed it away in a box. You controlled it, I said, the realization dawning like a terrible sunrise. You controlled everything, from the very beginning. You engineered the meeting. You knew what to say, what to do. I never had a choice. You already decided for me. That's not true, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. He looked broken. My love for you is true. That part is real. The most real thing in my life. I got up. I couldn't sit next to him anymore. I walked to the sink and I stared out the cold tea. I stared out the window at our new backyard. We picked this house together. We talked about putting in a swing set for the kids. Maybe a little vegetable garden. Now the view just looked like a set, a stage he had constructed. I need you to leave, I said, still looking out the window. Kathleen, please, just for tonight, go to a hotel. I can't look at you right now. The kids, I'll get them from my sisters tomorrow. I'll tell them you had a work emergency. Just go, John. Please. He was quiet for a long time. Then I heard him stand up. He didn't come near me. He walked out of the kitchen. A few minutes later, I heard the front door open and close. The sound was so final. The first night was the worst. I didn't sleep. I wandered through the new half-empty house. Every object felt suspect. The sofa he'd picked because he just had a feeling I'd like the color. The painting we bought on our honeymoon, had he steered me towards it because he knew from some old note that I liked seascapes? My whole life, my tastes, my preferences, my comforts, were they mine, or were they things he had carefully curated for me? I thought about the times I'd felt so deeply understood. When I was upset about a falling out with a friend, and he knew exactly what to say. When I was unsure about a career move, and his advice was uncannily perfect. I'd felt so lucky, so seen. Now, it felt like I'd been living in a house of mirrors, and he was the one holding all the reflections. He called the next morning. I didn't answer. He texted, "I'm so sorry. I'll do anything. Please let me come home. We can get help." I didn't reply. I picked up the kids from my sisters. I told them Dad had to go out of town for a sudden work thing. They were disappointed, but easily distracted by the new house, their new rooms. Living in the house without him was strange. There was a relief, a physical lessening of pressure. I could breathe without feeling like I was being watched. But the fear wasn't gone. It had just changed shape. Now it was the fear of what came next. The fear of unraveling 15 years. The fear of the kids' faces when they found out. The fear of being alone. And underneath it all, a stupid, persistent thread of missing him. Missing the husband I thought I had. A week passed. He respected my space. He only texted once a day, just to ask how we were. He sent a text to the kids' tablets to say goodnight. I started to feel guilty for keeping him away. He was their father. He loved them. That part, I had to believe, was real. Wasn't it? I agreed to meet him at a neutral place, a park. We sat on a bench, far from the playground. He looked terrible, unshaven, tired. "I've found a therapist," he said immediately. "For me. And I found one for us, if you're willing. Couples counseling." "I'll do anything, Kathleen. Anything." "Why did you keep it all?" I asked. This was the question that haunted me most. The photos, the notebooks. Why move them from apartment to apartment, to our first house, to this new one? Why not throw them away, once you had me? He looked down at his hands. "I don't know," he said, and it sounded like the most honest thing he'd said yet. "I think it was proof. Proof that it was real. That my feeling for you was real, even before you knew me. It was my secret, my treasure. I never looked at them, not after we were married. I just needed to know they were there." "That's sick, John." "I know," he whispered. "I know it is." I didn't see it that way then. I was obsessed. I was lonely. And then I saw you, and you were this light, and I was in the dark. All I wanted was to get to the light. I didn't care how. We sat in silence for a while. A jogger ran by. A dog barked. "Did you ever follow me after we were together?" I asked. "Did you ever check up on me? Track my phone? Anything?" "No," he said, looking me straight in the eyes. "Never. I swear on the kids' lives, Kathleen. Once we were together, once you loved me back, I didn't need to. I had you. The real you, not the idea of you. It was enough. It was everything." I wanted to believe him. Part of me did believe him. The logical part. The part that had lived with him for 15 years and never seen a hint of controlling behavior. Never felt surveilled. He never questioned where I was going. He never went through my phone. He encouraged me to go out with my friends. He was, by all observable measures, the opposite of a controlling husband. But the foundation was rotten. The first brick was laid in deception. "I don't know what to do," I said, and I started to cry. I hadn't cried yet. Not really. Now the tears came, hot and messy. I look at you, and I see the man I love. And then I see the man in those notebooks, and I'm scared of him. I don't know which one is real. He didn't try to hug me. He just handed me a tissue from his pocket. "They're both me," he said, his own voice thick. "The messed up, lonely guy who did a terrible, creepy thing, and the guy who got a second chance and spent every day since trying to be worthy of you. I'm both. I'm so sorry the first guy ruined it for the second one. I started individual therapy. So did he. We'd try a few sessions of couples counseling. The therapist was a calm woman who listened a lot. She called what John did a profound violation of boundaries stemming from obsessive thinking. She said the relationship was built on an asymmetric foundation of knowledge. She said trust was shattered. She said it would take years to rebuild, if it could be rebuilt at all. John agreed with everything. He was penitent. He answered every question fully. He didn't make excuses. He said he understood if I could never forgive him. He said he would wait as long as it took. In therapy, I talked about the fear, the violation, the anger. But I also talked about the last 15 years, the inside jokes, the way he held my hand during both labors, the way he cried when our son was born, the time he nursed me through the flu for a week, sleeping in a chair by the bed, the way he taught our daughter to ride a bike, running alongside her until he was out of breath. "Do you believe those moments were genuine?" my therapist asked. "I don't know," I said. "How can I know? If the starting point was a lie, how can anything after be real?" "Could they both be real?" she asked. "A wrong, harmful beginning, and a genuine, loving relationship that grew from it?" I had no answer. He moved back into the house after 2 months. Not into our bedroom, into the guest room. It was for the kids, we said. They were confused and asking too many questions. We told them Mummy and Daddy were having some grown-up problems and needed some space, but we both loved them very much. They seemed to accept it. Living in the same house with him is a special kind of torture. It's like living with a stranger who knows me better than anyone else on earth. We are polite, we coordinate schedules, we sit at the same dinner table and ask the kids about their day. We are a perfect, quiet model of co-parenting. Sometimes I catch him looking at me. It's not the creepy, calculated look from the photos. It's a look of such raw, open pain and longing that it takes my breath away. He looks at me the way a man looks at a shore he's been exiled from. And part of me wants to reach out. Part of me still loves that shore too. Then I'll remember the photo of me laughing outside my dorm, completely unaware of the lens pointed at me. I'll remember the clinical notes in the notebook. And the cold comes back. The feeling that I have been living in a story he wrote for me. I go through the motions. I make lunches. I go to work. I help with homework. I lie in my big empty bed at night and stare at the ceiling. I think about running away, just taking the kids and going somewhere he could never find us. But he would find us. He's proven how good he is at that. And where would we go? This life, this house, this stability, it's all we have. Even if it's built on sand. Other times, I think about trying. Really trying. Going back to couples counseling. Letting him back into my room, into my life. Forgiving him. People forgive worse things, don't they? He never hurt me. He never cheated. He just loved me too much in the worst possible way before he even knew me. But then the word just feels so wrong. It wasn't just anything. It was everything. It was the first chapter of our story, and it was a lie. He asked me last week, over a tense, quiet cup of coffee after the kids were in bed, what I needed from him. "I need you to have not done it," I said. He nodded, like he'd expected that answer. "I can't do that," he said. "But I can spend the rest of my life being the man you deserve, if you let me." I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just finished my coffee and washed the mug. That's where we are. In this new house, with its empty rooms and fresh paint, living a pause. The story isn't over. There's no dramatic confrontation coming. No big decision feels right. There's just this endless, exhausting middle. Me, him, the ghost of the girl I was at 20, and the life he built for us, which feels like a gilded cage I never even saw the bars of, until now. I don't know if I'll ever leave. I don't know if I'll ever truly stay. I just wake up every day and do it again, haunted by the fact that the greatest love of my life might also be its greatest deception.